All right, we are live. Yay. So we are live on YouTube and Facebook, and we are going to get started in a minute, but we're going to set up IGTV Live first, and then we will get going. Okay. Oh, okay. So I guess we didn't talk about that. Do you want me to add you to mine, or do you want to add me to yours?
Either one. Doesn't matter. Are you ready up?
I am up.
Okay.
Oh, I see you started one. So there's that one. Here, I send you a request.
Okay. Where's the request? Okay, go there. Okay. Okay, I joined.
Perfect.
And
it says waiting. Okay, we will get started in just a minute. It's always fun.
Do you do this, or do you do the split screen on your side?
It says that you've joined. So let's see if it says waiting for you. Okay, hang on. Let me try again now that you're here. Okay. Maybe that should pop up.
Okay, yeah. There it goes.
Hey, okay. I want to make sure we have everything, everything good. Okay. Well, we are live on a bunch of platforms, so that's really fun. But welcome to the virtual release party for our books. We'll talk about that in a minute. I am Melissa Frey, and this is Tori Alvarez. Why don't you tell us about your book?
Hi. I wasn't expecting to go first, so now I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't realize this was on the comments section, and now I couldn't see the comments if they came in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now I'm set.
Okay.
You're good. I'm Tori Alvarez. You will see how awkward and introverted I am, so I'm apologizing ahead of time right now. I just had a release today of my book, Tragically Beautiful. I don't even know how to get it on camera. It is an opposites attract Latinx love story. But don't be fooled, because it's not quite only a love story. Mm-hmm. It has so much more about real life and the struggles that people face, especially when you come from different socioeconomic statuses and not having sometimes those preconceived notions of how people should be, because we haven't walked in their shoes. So that's kind of a little bit roundabout of my story. And it is the second in a series, but they're both standalones. The first one was Beautiful Collision, and it came out December of last year. And I thought that was going to be it. I wrote that story, and I had planned on moving on to something completely different, because I had always thought I was just going to be a standalone person or writer. But when I got reviews in, I realized that people were asking for Alex's story, who is the cousin in Beautiful Collision. So then my mind started working, and thanks to another author who kind of started talking to me and bouncing ideas around, I ended up with this story. So it is the second, and they're both standalones. Very cool.
And I have read that book, and it's really good. Congratulations. I'm very excited for you. Releasing your book. Yay. Which is why we're here.
Well, if we're going to do that, I might as well show you what my sister got me today.
Yes.
She got me sugar cookies.
Those are adorable. Those are so cute. Oh my goodness. Those are adorable. Yes, I love those. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about mine, but before I say that, if anyone has any questions, about our books, or anytime anything we says, if you have a question about it, please feel free to leave a comment, because we will be doing giveaways throughout. We've got 2 different giveaways. And so anyone who asks a question will be entered into the giveaway. So we'll be giving away our books, but we'll talk about more about the details in a little bit. But so feel free to ask us any questions, and just, yeah, give us an emoji too. We like that. But ask a question in order to be entered in the giveaway. So, all right. So I will talk about my book. It also released today, which is why I was like, hey, Tori, let's do a joint release party, because we both have books releasing, which is super fun. There's so many books today that are releasing, like crazy. I've seen at least 3 other ones, and I'm sure there are more. But yes, okay, so my book is The Prophecy of the Codex. Yes, it's like backwards, right? So there's my book. Prophecy of the Codex. And it is also the second in a series. Mine is not a standalone, but it can be read by itself. So I've had actually my critique partner read this book without reading the first one, and she wasn't lost. So I count that as a good thing. But it's the story of my first book, The Secret of the Codex, which I don't have within reaching distance right here. My first book was released in 2018 in August. And then I did a re-release with the new cover in November. So almost a year. It was definitely time to get this out. And with 2020, I was hoping to release it earlier in the year, but we all know what happened with 2020. And Nick says hi and congratulations. Thank you, Nick. We appreciate that. And congratulations on your book release today too. Yay. Yay. So, okay. So The Prophecy of the Codex follows a group of archaeologists and archaeology students who in the first book are on a journey to find this big secret that is has been hidden from the world. It's kind of centuries old type thing, and kind of a spoiler, but they do find out what the secret is at the end of the first book. And then in the second book, it's kind of the progression of that story. So you come in a few months later, you kind of see how they've adjusted to having superpowers. That's not really a surprise. I've talked about that. So how they've adjusted to their real life with that. And then some things start happening, and things just start getting really crazy. So and that's kind of the story of the book. I like to say that book 2 is kind of more Grady's story, which book 1 was Kayla's story. So those are like the 2 main characters. And I do write from multiple POVs, so like everybody gets some page time, but I like to say it's his story because there's a lot of things that happen. So, all right, we have a Facebook comment. It's finally out. Yay, so excited to read it. Yay, thank you. Very excited. Shelly actually read my first book like way, way long time ago. Like she was like one of my first readers ever. So thank you, Shelly, for supporting. Okay, so I have talked for too long. We will talk more about our books, I'm sure, as the time goes on. So, yeah. So what should we do next?
Well, what Melissa did not tell you is her book takes off the instant you start reading it. It really does. So I start reading it. I haven't finished it. I'm still towards the beginning, but it is an instant hook. So.
Yes, I try to. So I guess I didn't really say the genre. So it's action adventure. It has been described as romantic adventure, I guess. And it's also got some supernatural elements to it. So there's a lot going on in there. And they're just so, like, it's really thick. Like you can see, it's like really thick. It's, I don't know, something like almost 500 pages. So it's, but it's still, it reads really fast. That's what people have told me about my books. They read really fast because I throw all this action and like keep you guessing and stuff. So yes. Thank you. Oh my goodness, this is so much fun. All right, so Nick has asked us a question. Okay, how many more books will there be in the series, have you decided? Well, I guess since we're both writing series, we can both answer. All right, so I'll let you go first.
Okay. Oh, me. There will be 3 books in the series. When I wrote Beautiful Collision, the first book was Tony's story, a female Tony, and her love interest, Garrett. Her cousins are throughout the book. They are big secondary characters throughout Beautiful Collision. So Alex is her oldest cousin, and then the second cousin of hers is Javi, and they're brothers. So they're the three of them that are raised by a grandmother. So they're more like siblings. So each one of them will have their book. So Javi's book will come next, and you get a little teaser of his love interest, but nothing about their story at the end of Tragically Beautiful.
Yes, I loved Javi. He was great. He was so, it's like, oh, just love that kid. Yeah.
And this will be the sweetest story of them all, just because of his personality. Each one of the cousins has very different personalities, and he's the middle kid, so he has a lot of those middle child tendencies, the mediator, and so you'll see his is going to have to be the sweetest story.
Yes, he would have to be, because he's just so sweet himself. Yes. All right, so we have more people join us. So hi, thank you for joining. And then I will talk about next question, I guess. So my plan tentatively, so I'm a pantser, so I really don't ever know until the books are written. But my plan is to have 4 books because of the symmetry, because there are 4 main characters. And my idea is that each book kind of, I mean, it's all from everyone's perspective, but my kind of idea is that the rest of the series is going to be more on Mandy and Justin and their story, because Kayla and Grady's story was kind of told in these first 2 books. So I'm thinking book 3 is going to be from Mandy's perspective, kind of. It's going to be from everybody's again, but kind of her story. And then book 4 will probably be Justin. And I have some really fun things that I'm going to do with them, and by fun, I mean really evil and horrible, but I have to do happy endings. So you always get a happy ending. I just might put them through a lot of stuff before I get there. So that's the fun of being an author, right? You can just be evil to your characters and then they'll forgive you because they have to.
Or they hold grudges in your head.
Probably so. Yes. And that's what you had said to me. You were like, I feel so bad for Justin. I'm like, I'm sorry. I feel bad for the guy too. It's terrible. Yeah. But yeah. It's just really fun messing with our characters, right? All right. For anyone who has joined, please feel free to ask questions. We would love to talk about. We've got some things we're going to go through and talk about, but we'd love to answer your questions most of all, and just anything. And then if you ask a question, we will enter you in our giveaway. We have a couple of them coming up. We'll talk about what those are involved, but anyone who asks a question on our lives will be part of that. So feel free to ask away.
Yes, so if you see me kind of typing away over here on the other side and not facing y'all, it's because I'm typing in names that have asked questions so we can pull them up as they come in.
And thank you, Tori, for managing that, because wow, I just can't today. So for those of you who do not know, I am moving across the country on Friday. So our house is like a disaster, and I'm currently in bed because it's like the one piece of furniture we still have left in the house. And so that's why there's no backdrop behind me. It's just a white wall. Yeah. So forgive me if I'm a little scattered. Okay. So do you want to play a game? Do we want to have some fun? Do we want to talk about something else? We're just kind of having fun tonight. So
yeah. We're flying by the seat of our pants. Pantsters.
Exactly.
Both of us are pantsters.
Oh, perfect. That's awesome. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm just going to ask you a question because this wasn't even on our agenda, but explain your writing process because I would like to hear that.
I don't think I have one, to be honest. Really, I start off with a vague idea of a story, a scene or two, like concrete scenes, and that's it. And I jump in.
Nice.
That has caused me to have to go back and do some stuff and some changes. But I don't know how else to do it. I guess if I practiced and learned. And I know there's so many that have great outlining skills and they write these great first drafts. I could probably learn how to do that, but I don't know if it would mess with the flow that I usually get. So I don't remember who I was talking to when I was writing Tragically Beautiful. I put in a story or something. I was like, oh crap, I just had brothers fighting. So you kind of know a little bit. There's a fight that goes on.
Right.
That I had not planned whatsoever. But the story just kind of lend itself to go in that direction. So I kind of like that, not knowing.
Yeah, I think that's the same. It's similar for me. It's kind of funny actually for these. It's different because I've actually written a romance book, and so my process for that was a lot different. But for these books, there's like a lot of there's a lot of characters, so there's a lot of moving pieces, and then there's like supernatural elements, so I have to keep all that straight. So I always joke that I have like a set of questions that I ask myself, and I just put those questions at the bottom of my document as I'm writing. And so I refer back to those, and I'm like, or just like notes to myself, like, this person needs to come in. He needs to meet this girl, or he needs, but I don't know where, I don't know when. I'm just like, just remember he has to meet a girl because that's going to be important. And so I just like go through and ask myself these questions, or like, do you want these people to do this? Or maybe this person could do this, or it's kind of like a very fluid, like maybe. And then I just write the book. Like, I don't plan out scenes. I don't really think of things in terms of scenes actually, which is funny, but I think of it more as like a fluid story. So for me to actually do to think about it like an actual scene, because I think that's where I would get hung up on the plotting part. Because I was like, but I don't really know. I don't think of these as scenes. Like organically, I'm like, yeah, I start and I end, but I don't really think of it that way. It's almost just like a stream of consciousness, I guess. So, okay, so I saw we had another question. Yay! Favorite?
And actually, it was part of what you just said. The favorite part of the writing process.
Yeah. So favorite part would just be the first draft. Absolutely. Getting the stuff on the page, figuring out what happens, because I don't know. And that's kind of another thing I do. A kind of establish my characters, but since my first book was this series, I tried to do like an outline, and I completely scrapped most of it. But and even I think Grady had a different last name in my outline, so it was like I didn't really do much of. It just kept like their first names and a few of the details. So I knew basically I just created the characters, and then I'm just like, okay, we're just gonna set them loose, see what they do. So that's my favorite part, is just getting to like all of these characters. I'm just gonna set them loose on the page. I have a vague idea of where they're gonna go. Actually, with Prophecy, I wrote myself into like, I don't know, I want to say a plot hole, but I wrote myself into where I couldn't get out of it, and I was like, what's happening? Like, does not make any sense. And I think I sat on it for like months and months, and I'm like, I cannot figure out where this story is going. And I realized I needed to scrap like half of what I'd written so far and start from that point again. And like, no, they don't get into a car accident here. That doesn't make sense. So it was just very crazy. Yeah. So what's your favorite part?
It's a toss-up between just going with the flow of the story. Because like you said, being a pantser, you don't know where it's going, and you're a surprise. Just like the readers get a surprise, you kind of get your own surprise too.
For sure.
But I also like when that spark hits. So I knew when Tragically Beautiful was written, or I started writing it, that I'd probably have to do Javi's story next. But it just flubbed me. Like, I could not think of where I wanted to go with him, how I was going to, nothing. And I was out for a jog the other day, and all of a sudden it just hit me what his love interest, she's going to be the one struggling, just because he has that caring, protective personality. And so it just hit me. Her story hit me. Her background hit me. Everything about her character hit me. And that is like, oh my gosh, it's here. And that is my favorite too. So toss up.
Yes. No, I want to agree with you and say I picked that too because that's so much fun, especially like so just like randomly like you just have an idea of where the plot's going to go. You're like, what? How did I not see this before? But it's always like you're driving down the road or you're just in the shower or something. Like it's always random and you just have no clue. And then of course my poor husband is like, like what happened? And I'm like, I just figured something out. And he's like, oh, okay, writing thing. Okay, it's okay. I'm sure I've scared him multiple times. Okay, we have a few more questions. Yay. All right. When did you come up with your title? What stage in the process and did it change? Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
Go for it.
Okay. So my first original title of this was going to be Origin, which does not make sense at all with the plot because I'm a pantser. I didn't know that. And then also Dan Brown had like just come out or came out after I decided that with a book called Origin, and my books are similar to his kind of in feel. So I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. And then I had the idea to kind of do everything, the something of the codex, to kind of put all that together. And I don't know at what point I thought of prophecy, but there are in the book, there are like prophecies that get, may or may not get fulfilled, I guess I can put it that way. So I knew that that was going to be a big part of it. I think it was actually the power of the codex, which was going to be the second title. I'm like, no, that doesn't quite make sense either. So I felt with prophecy and that just felt right. It's very, very organic, like what feels right to me. So I'm just like, that feels right. I'm going to go with that. So that's kind of how, and it's been a while I've had that title. So I didn't do the whole like title reveal thing. I'm just like, hey, it's called Prophecy of the Codex and that's what we're going with. So yeah.
No, that was not me at all. I did not pick a title until I had the cover already and didn't have a title.
Oh, wow.
I already had the picture I wanted for the cover. I already knew just because of it's called the Graffiti Hearts series and you have the graffiti hearts on the bottom. I knew I had to do something with that, but I did not have a title. I had all kinds of titles, or I knew it had to be beautiful just because it's a connection to Beautiful Collision. And I was throwing words around and I was in the car with my husband and we were sitting outside of my daughter's cheer gym. And I'm still struggling saying, I need it. And all of a sudden he just throws out Tragically Beautiful. Well, what about, and it just like ding. And then I don't know if anybody's seen any comments. I was able to work it into the book too. So it was just like a perfectly timed at the right moment in where I was in the writing process of, everything, that it just fell into place. So I have to thank hubby for that one. Perfect.
Yes. Hubbies are amazing. My husband did all of my formatting and it was just, whew. Yeah. He is a trooper because that's a lot. But yes, I definitely am very appreciative of them. Okay, so another question. Do you prefer writing female or male characters? I think that's the question. Yes. Okay, I'll let you answer first since I keep going first.
Okay. That's a hard one. For these two books, I'm going to say I liked writing the male characters. And I can't answer why. I just, maybe I'm putting in a lot of characteristics of friends that I know and their tendencies and things of that nature. So I don't know but for these two, Garrett and Alex were probably the best to write. Tony was good too. Lola I struggled with here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very difficult for me. It's different for me because I have like so many characters that I write from their viewpoint. So I have to get into a lot of their heads. The antagonist, and like my antagonist in the first book was a man, but in the second book is a woman. So that was also interesting to play with. But I don't know that I prefer one over the other. I think it's just how well I know the character and how well I've gotten to know them. And it's just easier the more I know them and the better I know them. So some of the characters in book 2 were, and I keep looking over here because I'm like drawing inspiration from my book and hoping it speaks to me as I, as I answer the question. But I think some of the characters in book 2 are just, because they were new in book 2, I hadn't developed them as much. I hadn't sat with them as long because in The Secret of the Codex, I created these characters back in 2008, actually. So I've been with them for about 12 years. So I know like the main characters and yeah, so it took me forever to publish the first book. It took me 10 years, but but I had sat with them for so long. I knew them. And like when I didn't write, I felt like I missed them. And so I had to get back to writing. So the characters I introduced in book 2 or kind of fleshed out in book 2, it was a quicker process for me, obviously, because I hadn't known them for as long. So yeah, and then like the antagonist either, like I didn't really know how she became who she was until I might have even been done writing the draft. And then I was like, oh, that's her backstory. Oh, that makes so much sense. And it was actually, it's like one of those moments, but it was actually, I was listening to a Linkin Park song. I listen to Linkin Park a lot when I write, and among other bands. But yeah, like one of them is like, oh yeah, she has a problem with her dad. That's the issue. That is why she is the way that she is. And I actually worked it into book 3, or I will. I haven't written a lot of book 3, but sometimes I will write a scene that just pops out in my head and I'll just be like, okay, I need this little bit, and I'll write it down and be like, I'll get back to that later. I'll fit it in somewhere. So yeah, so I don't know. I don't really have a favorite either, but it just depends on how well I know them, I guess. But if I had to pick, it'd probably be the guy, because I like to get in the guy's head. Like I loved writing from Grady's perspective. It was so much fun. Even though I put him through the ringer in this book, but it was just so much fun to feel how he interacted and his emotions without giving too much away. Okay, someone says, congratulations, Myra. Thank you so much. And as a reminder for anyone who has joined us recently, if you ask a question in the comments, we would love to answer them. And then you'll also be entered in a giveaway later. So feel free to ask questions. And then we will talk about those in a little bit. Okay. So
while we're at like almost at the 7:30 mark. So I don't know if you wanted. Yeah, I just looked at I was like,
I just looked at it too. I was like, oh, we're half hour in. All right. Well, maybe we should do the first one.
You want me to go ahead and do it? Let's
see. We got a couple of entries.
And then.
All right. So is this the giveaway? This is the giveaway for. Is this yours?
Sure.
You can tell we did not plan this. We're like, we're going to do the giveaway. I don't know who.
I don't know if you can see it, but it says Nick Reeves.
Yay. Okay, perfect. So
go
ahead.
We're going to do an ebook copy of both Melissa's and my new release is what I will be sending you. So if you want to message me in Instagram, I will, with your email, I'll go ahead and get those sent off.
Perfect. Yay. Thank you. Okay. So
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm over here.
No, you're good. We're just like, yeah. It's the program we're using. Instagram doesn't allow you to like actually stream alongside of other things. So we're doing Instagram on our phone and our other platforms on our computer. That's why we're not quite looking at you, but we're still watching. So hi, Eve. Thank you for joining. Yay. Okay. So should we answer some questions we got previously?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have one of the first questions. What was the most fun part of the publishing journey?
Most fun part? Well, can I say writing?
Sure.
Now, I mean, the publishing journey is exciting, but it is also stressful. And there's a lot of like ins and outs, and especially because I have so long between my books, which I'm working on. But it's been like a year since I've been releasing stuff. And so it's hard to remember all the things I went. So I always have to start from the beginning. But of course, holding your book in your hand is one of the biggest things. That's like very satisfying. And then like for me, it's like, oh, the cover's so pretty. But then I open it up and I'm like, oh, those are my words. And then that part is like what really gets me.
Can I say cover making? Because I'm such a cover whore. Sorry.
No, that's totally fine.
I really am. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but I do. I love covers so much. So coming up with the ideas for the covers, that's the fun part. Now, the execution sometimes is very stressful, but the coming up with the idea has been my favorite for all 3 covers so far.
So now do you create your own covers?
I dream them up in my head, but I don't do the work.
Oh, okay. See, because I'm like, I gave my cover designer, like the first one, I originally designed the first cover myself in my original book when I said 18, when it released in 18. And it was just don't have talent for that. And so when I got it redesigned in 19, I was like, I need a cover designer I can work with that's going to take me through the whole series, and it's going to look cohesive and it's going to look nice. So I was like, it'd be kind of cool if we could do like a symbol thing. Like, I think like, is it the Game of Thrones books that have like symbols on the front?
Yes.
I don't know.
I know the books, but I know the show.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I saw them in Barnes and Noble, I think. I haven't read them, but but I was like, it would be cool to have like a symbol on the front, especially because it's about the Codex, which is a book. And it was like, it would be just really awesome to have like this symbol. And I don't really have like any kind of idea of what it should look like. I know it's Mayan. So Mayan symbol, go design something. And she like, the first thing she came back with, I'm like, you are amazing. Like it has like 4 quadrants, which is perfect because it's like 4 characters. I'm like, okay, I'm sold. This is great. And then the second book, I was like, it needs a butterfly in the front, pretty much like the other one, but it needs a butterfly because that's important to the story. And so she worked her magic again. And I was just like, what on earth? Like, how are you so talented? I just can't do this. Not my thing. Because I'm like, I don't know how to make. And then there's like, if you can see like on this like outside here and stuff, there's like little, it almost looks like sparks or something. Well, in the first book, they're like dots. And I was like, oh, it needs to be different than the dots because it would look too much. But what is she going to do? And she just came back with this. And they're like lines. And I was like, this is perfect. How do you even do this? Like, you read my mind. So, yeah. So it's been a really fun experience that I can just be like, do your thing. I will send you money. And then I will have a pretty cover. And I don't have to deal with it at all. Yes. So. That's funny. We have very different processes, but I like it.
Yeah. So I was just lucky that I created the cover for Beautiful Collision, or dreamed up the cover for Beautiful Collision, and that I was able to adjust it or tweak it where it still had that cohesive vibe to it. So they both have the graffiti hearts on the bottom. I don't know if you can see, wrong way. And able to. And so, of course, Hobbies will have that same feel to it also, because I was lucky.
Now, I haven't had a chance to read their first book, but I think Alex's story, because it's a little bit darker, I like that it was like the cover's like grayscale, like black and white. I like that kind of play on it.
And he was even that way, when I introduced him. And I think I gave him more of a backstory in Beautiful Collision.
Okay.
So I think he plays more of a bigger part than Hobby does in Beautiful Collision. Unlike this time when Hobby is more of
a big part. Yeah, that makes sense. Totally makes sense. Okay, so one of the questions I have now, Instagram is being crazy, and it's like disappearing all of my stories archive, but I think the question that I got was our favorite characters. So, and then I have another one too, but yeah. So who are your favorite characters?
I can't answer that. because I have favorites for different reasons.
There you go. Go ahead.
Favorites just because it's my personality that I wrote into the story was my debut novel. So in Naive in Love, my first book that came out, it's going to be 3 years, I think. Or 2 years, I can't remember. Anyways, her shyness, her introverted personality, everything that she kind of went through to learn about herself was my struggles in college. And there's a scene in that book that was taken right out of my life. So if you ever read Naive in Love, when they're at a country club and her love interest are fighting, that is not exactly, of course, but
right. Pretty close.
So, yes, very close. So her for that reason, just because it's me.
Right.
And then I guess with my others, I'm going to have to say, as much as I love Alex, it's going to have to be Toni, because I love her independent, confident self. And I guess I was just channeling everything that was opposite that I struggle with personally. So yeah. I liked her, just her confidence and I don't give a damn type of attitude.
Yeah, that's a good reason. I like that. So my favorite characters. So let's see. Well, I love Kayla because, like you said, because she was my debut novel. Debut novel. Well, can't talk. I put a lot of characteristics in her that I see in myself. But also like, wow, she's really awesome because she's an archaeology professor, and that would be an awesome job, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to let my character do that. So I kind of liked her for that, but, and because her story was in the first book, but I'm finding as I write subsequent books, and like I said, this book is more kind of Grady's story. I'm like, oh, I love Grady. This is such a great book to I love to read from his perspective. I like to see what happens to him. And it was actually kind of funny. In the first book and kind of in the second, I didn't really connect with Justin very well. Like I connected with him, but I didn't really like him, I guess, because he's the extrovert. He's the guy who was making jokes. He's kind of like teasing people or whatever. And I'm just like, I would not hang out with you. Well, right? I'm like, oh man, I feel so bad. And then, I guess I haven't really announced this yet, but why not? So I wrote his love story, like his backstory. So, and I just like fell in love with the guy. I'm just like, oh, I just like, you're so sweet. And I didn't know that you were that sweet, but you had to be to like win somebody over, right? So you had to be to like, because he's with Mandy in the series. So you had to be sweet and kind and generous and, sexy to actually like have Mandy fall in love with you. So, so it was really fun kind of writing that and getting to know them. And then I'm just like, okay, now that's what I needed to actually like bring in all the characters and really get into their head and kind of fall in love with them, for lack of a better word, just because it's like, I knew Grady and Kayla because their whole, like, that was the thing. That was like the main part of the story and all that. But then they were just kind of secondary-ish characters that just popped right into my head. I'm like, okay, yep. Now I can write your story to its best ability because now I understand you. So, but if I had to pick like favorite character, I'd probably say Holland. Like he just like, oh, that poor kid. He was in The Secret of the Codex. He was part of like the bad guys, and he ended up helping the good guys, and so he became their friend. And then I bring him back for book 2 and put that poor guy through the ringer. But yeah, he's probably my favorite because I'm just like, oh, he's like 16, so you're just like, oh, I want to take care of you, but then like he's in the middle of all this craziness going on, and so he has all this stuff happen to him, and it's just just sad. But anyway, I am talking too much. So yeah, so I like
that. Shows the excitement. I think we both are, but it just shows the excitement we have for our stories.
Sure. Yes, exactly.
So favorite scene.
Yes. Favorite scene. Oh, did somebody ask? Oh.
No, well, that's one of the ones you
one of the questions, yes.
mentioned. Yes.
Yeah, that was the one I was going to say. I was like, wait, did somebody else ask that? Oh, okay. Favorite scene. I have to think about it for a minute. Do you have one?
I don't.
I think, okay, so I probably have a few favorites, but I'll explain why. Kind of like characters, like why yeah. So there was a part in this book when I was writing it that I lost time, like legit lost 2 hours of my life writing the book. Cause I looked up and it was 2 hours later and I'm like, what just happened? And it was so good. There's like two important, there's like two couples kissing and like they're very emotional scenes, obviously. So like, and I had written that part during that time. So those scenes are important to me for that because it was just very, like I was like in the zone. But then the aftermath of some of that, like there's one just like super heartbreaking scene that I'm just like, oh, I love this scene and I feel so bad because I'm just like treating my character so horribly. But I'm just like, oh, but it's so good though. Like storytelling, like, oh, yeah. So that part. And then there's one at the very end that's all like romantic and beautiful. And I'm just like, oh, I love writing the scene so much. And I wasn't actually going to put it in. I changed the ending slightly a few times. And I was like, okay, should I do this? Should I not? Because so it was just like, how much of this do I want to show? Because it's like writing is, because it's such a personal experience and you grow as a person alongside while you're growing as a writer. And so like my first book, like there's like hints at like sex, but there's no like even a fade to black. Like there's just hardly anything. And then there's like no language at all. And so the second book, there's like super minor language, but like toward the end, I was like, okay, so I'm like starting to write more romantic stories. I need to have a little bit more on the page. Like it's not graphic. It doesn't get into anything. It's the fade to black scene, but it's still like to be true to myself and true to who I am and who I am becoming as a writer, I need to actually put this on the page. So that was terrifying for me to actually be like, okay, even though it's a fade to black scene, it's not like anything super scary. I'm just like, how are my readers gonna be okay with this? Like, so that was my favorite scene, I guess, for that reason. So yeah. And I'm talking too much. You should take this one.
Well, that's funny how you're worried about the readers and how they're going to accept, integrating this. I had to struggle with because my dad has been reading my books. And so I'm like, oh, okay, Dad, maybe you don't want to read this one.
That's funny.
But favorite scene. Actually, now I have two, but I'm not going to mention the second one just because I don't want to spoil anything. And it would be a spoiler for the story because it's really at that climactic time when everything has kind of just gone to, and they're trying to find their way back to each other. That was a scene in there was one of my favorites because everything fell into place so beautifully. Like, again, I'm not planning it all. It just kind of, I'm going with the flow and the way everything happened and flowed. It just fit perfectly. So that's why that one, without saying what it was. And then there's another one. Mine has language. Just, I'm letting you know right now, lots and lots of language, just because Alex is a bad alpha, protective, just domineering, doesn't like to be questioned, has lived the hood life. And so that is, who he is. And so he's protecting Lola for himself. He has fallen for her, but he doesn't want to bring her into his world because she, is goes to college with his cousin's best friend now. She comes from money. And so all of those things, he doesn't want to weigh her down with his background. And so there's a scene where they come together because he's been pushing her away, and kind of being an a-hole about it when he's doing it. And so there's a scene, they're at a pond, he's working at a ranch. I'm not going to, kind of get into that a lot, but they have a moment where they're on friendly terms and he kind of lets his walls down and shares a little bit about his life. And I liked writing that because that was the first scene that he kind of became more human and had that softer side as opposed to just being this badass, I'm just domineering type of personality. And so that moment gave him that soft human side.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, I think that's what the readers are there for. They're like, oh, he has such a good heart. Like, you're just like, oh, he's not such a jerk. I get it. Yeah. So, yeah, I know that's why I like love stories like that. I'm reading through a book right now where it's like that. And I'm like, oh, he's not so horrible. It's so sweet. No, that's great. I love that. Perfect. Okay. So we are moving right along. All right. So in case anyone has joined us, please feel free to ask questions. We are answering all the questions, and there is one more giveaway at the end. So if you ask a question, you are entered into the giveaway. So we would love, even if we've talked about it, we obviously can talk about our books all night. So we would love to answer those questions. So, all right. Do we want to do one of the kind of games we have planned?
Yeah.
We could do Kiss, Marry, Kill. I think that'd be fun.
That's what I was thinking of.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I guess we can do them for our characters first, and then I think we'll start there. Okay. So, you want to go first?
Who do you want to kill? Oh, let's do it. One, kill, and then we'll
okay. Okay. So who do I want to kill from my book? Yeah. Well, that's a hard one because so initially I'm like, ooh, the antagonist, let's just kill her off. But I'm just like, but I know her story and like hurt people. So I'm like poor, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, oh, I love all my characters. And actually, like when I write deaths, it doesn't matter if they're good person, bad person, whatever. I am just like wrecked that night that I'm writing them. So it probably would have to be one of the elders in my book because I have like this group of elders that are like overseeing, they're kind of in the background and they come a little bit more to the foreground in the Prophecy of the Codex. And so I start to I actually do a scene from their perspective. And so I start to get in their heads a little bit more. And I'm just like, oh, you guys, I do not like you. So, and plus they're doing all kinds of nefarious stuff in the background. So I'm like, yeah, that'd probably be my kill. Like pretty much any of them, except for one. There's one of them that I'm like, oh, but yeah, that would probably be my kill.
Mine are just so straightforward. When Alex gets dragged back into the life he's left, probably the mob boss.
Yeah.
Would have to be it. But then there would be no story without him.
Exactly.
So that would be very difficult if I often. It
Right?
would be a happily ever after right there.
Right. It's no conflict, and that'd be great. Yeah. But then nobody would read the book because there's no conflict. No, I get that for sure. Yeah. Okay. So are we going to do Mary next? Or should we do Kiss next?
Let's do Kiss, and then we'll move up to Mary.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So how about you? Who would you kiss in your book?
Probably Javi, the brother.
Yes. Because he's so cute.
He is he's a sweetheart. So like, you just, yeah, you just have to. I've already mentioned, he's just the sweetheart. He's caring, he's protective, but not protective in that like, way.
Right.
You know,
just domineering. Yeah.
Yes. So
protective in his own sweet way. Yes.
Yes.
I would probably have to say Justin. Probably would. Just because he's I don't know, just because I wrote his backstory, so I like know him a little bit better, and now I'm like, oh, that guy, he's pretty awesome. Like I didn't realize that, but also, you know, just because Justin, yeah. Okay, so our last one is Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Who would we marry? Okay, you want to go first?
It's a toss-up. I can't choose between Garrett and Alex. So Garrett is the love interest in Beautiful Collision, and he has very significant parts in Tragically Beautiful too. But that's a toss-up. They're very different, and I love those opposing qualities in both, like how different they are. So that's why I decide.
They kind of bring different things to the table. So it's like, my life would be this way with this one, but it would be this way with, you know. So yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah, so mine, of course, would be Grady. It's probably no surprise to anyone. It was funny because I like to joke that it's not really a joke because it's serious, but I wrote Grady before I met my husband, but totally is Grady. It's crazy. As far as how he feels about Caitlin, how he takes care of her and stuff. So I just, Grady always, forever, my OG boat boyfriend. So plus Professor.
Megan says she knows who she would marry.
Yeah. Grady, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think she told me that. She actually critiqued it for me. So she's like, oh, Grady, I love it. Or it could be Holland. I don't know. Holland's not quite old enough yet, but when he gets there, yeah, definitely.
And we had another question here. As a third grade teacher, what is the biggest advice to instill the desire to write?
Yeah. Okay. So my thinking on that is to not be prescriptive, because it's important to teach the technicalities, and a lot of if I remember third grade, I don't really remember it very well, but growing up, I was taught a lot of the technicalities, but also when I went off book, that was discouraged. And I feel like that can be harmful in a way. So I think it's important to encourage a child's creativity and still teach them the rules. But if they maybe an open dialogue about hey, okay, well, this isn't technically what you're supposed to do. But if they have a thoughtful reason, or if they're well, I think this would just, maybe there's something to that. Because it was actually funny. Because I'm moving, I went back through and looked at all of my old school paperwork and stuff. And I was looking at how my teachers graded me. And I was like, no, that wasn't right. You shouldn't have graded me that way. This is actually something that I knew what I was doing here, but you just wanted to be technical about something. So it was just really interesting to see it from that perspective. But that would be what I would say. It's just to encourage creativity and kind of teach them that it's okay to go off book if you know why you're doing it. And by off, I don't mean don't put the period at the end of a sentence, but there are kind of teaching them that there are places and times to kind of break out of the box. And that is actually what makes for the best stories and the most creative. So that would be my advice.
I'm agree with yours because I started writing just because I loved stories and I'm a daydreamer. And so I would just pick, little scenes in my head and I'd make a story with them and have my own little movie going on. So there was nothing that I could say to write like that's, I don't know. So
yeah,
everything Melissa said.
Yeah, and I think too, to encourage obviously reading, but also all kinds of stories, because I get a lot of my inspiration from TV show and movies. Like that's where a lot of my stuff comes from. And that's, I think it's a little tricky writing a series like I've written it that's like a supernatural action adventure, but it's got romance in it. So it's hard to put in a box, which makes it difficult to talk about sometimes. But it's because that's how I see it in my head. I see it like a movie and then I write it down in book form. So obviously I read a lot growing up and I still read a lot because I need to know how books work and things like that, but also to consume story in really any venue that is possible, because you can get inspiration from anywhere. So,
yeah.
All right. That's a great question. I like that one. All right. Another question. How is your writing progress? Okay. Do you want to give us an update first?
Like I said, just a couple weeks ago, I got the idea for a hobby story and kind of built it around his love interest personality. And so I have a couple of scenes. Again, I get the scenes first and then I kind of start. So right now I'm struggling with the beginning. I've only written probably 1,000 words or so, but that is my NaNoWriMo project to start. Sunday, I think, right, is the first?
I think yeah, Sunday.
So yeah, so I have that that I'm going to start, and then I also I was invited to do a novella for an anthology, and so I need to start that because that one also is due. I need to get it to the editors by February. So
wow.
That's what's on my plate right now.
Very cool. So yeah, okay. So I've written a romance novel and I'm hoping to put that out early next year. That's my plan. Yes. So I've been reading a lot of romance lately, last couple of years, and I'm just like, okay, I've got to write this genre. It's just way too much fun. So, and that one actually does have language and steamy scenes, which would be like, I was like so worried about that. Like, oh, are my readers going to even want to read this? Because I like literally don't have any language. I don't have any like steam, like other than like kissing, very chast type stuff. So this one is very fun, but it was just so much fun. I just had to write it. So I wrote that one, and I actually wrote that this year during kind of like the whole quarantine COVID stuff. And I just got into a point mentally where I was like, I cannot deal with anything going on in the world right now. So I like literally, I was not on Instagram for like 2 weeks. I like just pulled out of pretty much everything and I just wrote. So I wrote the book in like, I don't know, 11 days. And then I've added some stuff. It was short. So it was, I know, but it was like literally like, I just had like multiple 10,000 word day. I was just like, didn't do anything. Like I hardly did anything because I have the benefit of working from home and I didn't have any pressing things at that time. So I was able just to pull back and I was like, nope, I'm just writing this out. So I had actually planned on releasing a different romance novel that I had started, but now that one's written and I'm like, okay, that one's clearly the one that needs to be out right now. And I'll go back and finish. Actually, I have a couple of romance novels in progress and so I'm very like, I write in spurts. So like that, like 2.5 weeks. And then I haven't written since until like a few days ago. So that's just kind of how my brain works. And I need to get more frequent with it so I can put up my books more quickly. But yeah, like Prophecy took me probably a little under a year to write, maybe. Or maybe even a little over a year. I don't even remember exactly. Secret took probably 9 months or so, but then I edited for like 8 years. So, but yeah, so that's kind of like, and then, as far as this series, I have, I kind of have a tentative title for it, but I haven't announced it because I'm not sure that it's the right one. So I'm still waiting on that. But I do have some of it written. I want to say it's around, I can't even remember, but it's like between 15,000 and 30,000. I don't remember because I haven't looked at it in a while. But I did it. Once you read the Prophecy of the Codex, you'll realize that it very clearly goes into the next book. It's not a cliffhanger per se. I don't want to call it that because the story in Prophecy ends, and then the epilogue kind of sets them up for book 3. So it was very natural to, our live video ended because we ran over time. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like longer than an hour, but I mean, we can do it.
I was like, oh, what did happen?
Here, I'm going to.
Okay, well, bye, IG.
Sorry. Yeah, I totally didn't even think of that. But anyway, yeah, here, I'm going to actually. I don't really have a way to do it. I was going to try to save it to my phone, but it's only letting me do IG. So that's what's going to happen. Okay, we'll just save it on that because we're probably going to wrap up in a little bit anyway. Oh, that's too bad. Okay, so actually, I don't think we're going to save it. I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to get out of it. Okay, delete. Okay, anyway, because we have it on here. So, okay, sorry. What were we talking about? I totally like.
So you were that it's led up. Prophecy has led up into the book.
Yeah,
and then I asked, and then I started reading. I was like, "What is going on here?"
Right, and then I'm like, "Wait, where did it go?" Yeah, I forgot that they have like an hour limit. So.
Oh, and I didn't even know that. So I just learned something new today.
Yeah, I should have remembered. I should have known that, but I just got talking. So yeah, so basically I wrote like kind of what is the setup of book 3. So like the end of book 2. And then, like it starts off like right as book 2 ends, like there's a very clear, and then it starts. So I kind of had to get that out on the page to find out what happens for myself so that I knew like, what did I just do to these people? What happened? And so I kind of explored that a little bit. And then that was one of those moments that you talked about where it was like, oh, light bulb moment. I knew who I was going to bring into book 3 to kind of increase the tension and like bring all of that in. And it was just, I had to like bring him in a little bit and kind of play around with that character.
You wrecked their lives so you could write book 3.
Yes, exactly.
So now I have to fix it all.
Right? Yeah.
And that's what I always tell others. Do not break my heart. Do not leave me with a broken heart. And then I read a book and I was like, you left me with a broken heart.
Right. I mean, that's why I'm like, I definitely like the relationship part of it. Like, okay, you got to resolve that. You can't leave me like them, like not at, like at odds or like not together. I'm just like, that's not cool. So that's why, and I was always like, I will never write a cliffhanger. I hate cliffhangers. I hate them so much. And I was like, but this works so well. I have to do it this way. So I'm like, okay, at least I finished the story and the story is complete. So it's not like they're wondering what happens. It's just like, okay, now I want to read book 3 because this.
Because it's going to be a nice flow and continuation.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so all of our questions were coming in from IG.
Okay, well, what we can do is we can do the random drawing, and then I will just reach out to that person.
Okay, so do we want to, so there were 2 people in that one. Do we want to keep the ones from the first half hour or?
Yeah, we can, and just not the one who won, the previous one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one, so let me take out her name.
Okay, so this giveaway is going to be for book 1 and book 2 in my series. So Secret of the Codex and the Prophecy of the Codex, the ebook format.
And it says Megan reads and writes.
Okay, perfect. So I will reach out to her and Oh, I feel bad. I was like, oh, I totally forgot about the IG limit thing. And I was like, oh, we could have figured it out. But I will reach out to her and let her know.
Very good. So are we saying bye to YouTube and Facebook then?
I think so. I think we've done pretty much everything we wanted to talk about. We talked about all the questions that we got from social media. So I think we're good. This has been super fun.
Thank you for doing this with me. This my first live, and I had a blast.
And you were totally natural. So
and I had no reason to be nervous. I told you, I was like,
right. No reason to be nervous. It was just fun. Let's talk about our books.
So bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you for coming. We will talk to you later.